Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. And welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you're overseas and on the move, US listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you're in the UK, 0330-332-6541. Or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube live. In the first watch today, global warming and climate change, issues and answers. In the second watch, the COVID-19 vaccination program. Our social media question, we ask, what are your thoughts on the vaccination program so far? Please share your responses on our Facebook page, Love 101 FM, and also whether by post or voice note to WhatsApp 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your responses later on in the program, but before all of that, here's I quote.
Too many of us are not living our dreams because we're living our fears, Les Brown.
Ah, yes. What a powerful statement. Good morning, Shivani.
Good morning, Rev. How are you?
Yes, I'm doing okay, and I gather you are doing well.
Yes, for the most part, yes.
Yes, I understand you had a very powerful devotion this morning. A bounce back?
Be a bounce back person. Yes.
Powerful. Please send me this. Please send me the devotion as well, eh? I need for you to send me. I won't look it up. I need for you to send it to me.
Okay.
All right. Special anointing on it. All right. All right, listeners. The first watch will be back after this break.
Excuse me, sir. How much patty you are buying?
Me no know.
Me think you should buy 5.
Why? Why me fi buy 5?
Cause Juicy Patty have a cheesy surprise.
When you buy any 5 juicy patties, you can cheese it up for free.
Yeah, all 5 patty full of cheese. And it's Anchor cheese, you know. And did I tell you it's only for the month of October? So you better run go down there fast. Right now, cheese! Cheese it up. Upgrade 5 patties of cheese for free today.
With Juicy Patties. Conditions apply.
Hello.
Hello?
Goodbye.
Goodbye? What are you doing?
I'm saying hello to peace of mind and goodbye to worry.
Oh, I'd like to say that too.
Well, with Guardian Life's new Ultimate Provider, you can secure your medical expenses in the event of critical illness ahead of time and benefit from their investment portfolio too.
Wow. So it's hello peace of mind.
And goodbye worry with Guardian Life's new Ultimate Provider. For more information, contact 888-367-5433 or talk to one of our representatives. Guardian Life. Live secure. Live easy.
There is an easy way for insurance coverage today with no line in your way. All you have to say is
Genac.com. Everything you have is everything you have. So keep your assets covered and save 10% off your insurance when you renew by visiting Genac.com. You don't need to go into a branch. You can do just about everything online at Genac.com. Remember, smart insurance saves. Who knows what tomorrow brings? So future-proof everything.
insurance on the go. Trust the brand that you know.
Genac.com.
All you have to say is Genac.com.
General Accident Insurance Company. Future-proofing tomorrow.
Hello, I am Kenneth Richards, the Catholic Archbishop of Kingston. I am vaccinated and encourage all persons to get vaccinated for their own health and for the common good. Some persons are hesitant. However, I invite you to consider what is the best response to the pandemic. The fact is, those who are dying are unvaccinated persons. Support and promote taking the vaccine and follow the supplemental protocols. Do so for personal health, the health of others, as a civic duty, for we are our brothers and sisters' keeper. Amen.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Now, Jamaica's plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and mitigate the effects of climate change has officially been launched. It's called the Nationally Determined Contribution, NDC, Implementation Plan. Now, why do we have or even need this plan? Jamaica's issues with global warming and climate change. And what are the answers? Well, to answer these and other related questions, we have online the Honorable Pernell Charles Jr., Minister of Housing, Urban Development, Environmental and Climate Change, and Professor Michael Taylor, Dean of the Faculty of Science and Technology, UWI. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning. Morning, Minister Charles.
Morning, how are you?
I'm well. Good to have you both on with us this morning. Let me begin with you, Professor Taylor. I gather that in some quarters, the terms global warming and climate change are used interchangeably. For the record, what really is global warming vis-a-vis climate change?
Well, when we talk about climate change, what we're really talking about is long-term measures or changes in measures of climate. And there are several measures of climate that you can speak about. One of those long-term changes is, of course, the changes in temperatures or the warming of the earth. And so when you're talking about that particular and specific change, you often refer to it as global warming. And it is one of the most obvious and noticeable changes in the climate when you take, say, for example, over the last 100 years. And certainly within the Caribbean as well, I think your listeners would relate to the fact of the warming climate. So it's one of the very noticeable ways in which a climate changes. Just to add that the climate, however, can change in other ways, however. And so when we talk about climate change now, we are beginning to embrace the other ways in which climate changes. The rainfall patterns can certainly change. Sea levels are rising, and that's a different kind of change, extreme events. So global warming is a very specific form of the change. Climate change embraces the other things that result as a result of global warming.
Is it fair to say that global warming is vis-a-vis climate change is about cause and effect?
Well, certainly when we talk climate change, the context which we are using it is change due to human activity. And that's very important to make that distinction because our climate can change due to other reasons. You will have, people talk about those, especially those who are history buffs, to talk about the Little Ice Age and those kind of things. Those are natural changes in the climate. But then, and then of course, if you even have something like a volcanic eruption, it's a natural change in the climate for a short period of time. However, when we begin to talk about the way in which we talk about climate change currently and the particular impacts we are seeing, we are really talking about change that is due to human activity, or what they call the anthropogenic changes in climate. So the cause of the severe, the 1 degree warming in the mean that we have seen over the last 100 years is the greenhouse gas emissions. Now the greenhouse gas emissions are, of course, best exemplified by carbon dioxide emissions. And where do we get those emissions from? It's from burning of fossil fuels. It's what you use in your car. It's how we get electricity. It's the industry. And then, of course, it's also due to changing land cover. Trees are a natural, what we call sink for carbon dioxide. But when you replace the natural land cover with a hardened land cover, it also contributes to this global warming and climate change. So there's a clear cause and the resulting effect due to human activity.
Great. Minister Charles, last week you reportedly launched the NDC implementation plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. What does all that mean in practical terms? And what is Jamaica's role in that regard?
Thank you. So, Professor Taylor was actually there as one of our speakers when we launched the implementation plan. And he was able to explain for us the science behind the why. So you hear a lot about global warming, you hear a lot about the greenhouse gas emissions that are causing or one of the contributors to the global warming, and the fact that if we continue to have the global rise, we will essentially destroy the planet and we won't be able to live here. So the NDC plan is Jamaica's commitment to mitigating against our own impact in terms of negative impact towards the greenhouse gas emissions that are eventually leading to all those negative things like the global warming and the weather events that arise from it. We are one of 196 countries that in 2015 became part of now this adoption of the Paris Agreement. And that agreement obligates us to lay out our plan, lay out our efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in a very strategic plan. So that's what the NDC is, nationally determined contribution. What is our nationally determined contribution towards reducing greenhouse gas emissions? And so we were able to put together our plan, which details what we're going to do. It details the barriers to getting it done. It details all of the respective sectors that we're going to target, the land use change and forestry and energy. And we have been able to do so with the support of partners. So the World Bank came in and they conducted a baseline, which is where they did an assessment of where we are, an assessment of our status, and an assessment of the new sectors that we could consider to update our old NDC and upgrade it in terms of our commitments. And we have done so by upgrading our commitments by almost 25.4% relative to business as usual emissions, and 28.5% when you take into consideration international support. So Jamaica is making some ambitious commitments, and we have ambitious targets so that we play our part as a country on this planet to do what is necessary to keep down the temperature way below 2 degrees Celsius and to protect life on this planet, Reverend, for the several generations that we want to be able to live on this planet until God comes for it.
Okay. All right. Please hold your thoughts, gentlemen. We are up on a break. We'll be right back.
Between 2015 and 2020, there were 74,455 reports of child abuse in Jamaica. Report child abuse. Call 211.
The time brought to you by Child Protection Services is
7:15.
From generation to generation, Jamaicans have depended on J&B Bank to make the pride and joy of providing a safe place for their families possible. Now, with no processing fees and no down payment mortgage options, you can open the door to your own sweet home, a legacy to hand to your next generation. Visit jnbank.com to get pre-approved today. J&B Bank will help you find a way.
Forget ordinary. Now go compromise, oh nah, no way. I feel secure the best for my family. Me and my family, we go yummy. Go yummy. Best in value, best in place. Me and my family, we go yummy. Forget ordinary, go yummy.
DIGICEL. First in a class when you have Digicel. School as prime bundle, that's right. With your educational website, make you bright. Head to the top of your class with your first Digicel SIM and a school as prime bundle. Get over 142 gigabytes of data so you can have access to educational sites, social media platforms, Digicel apps, and more for as low as $1,500 for 28 days. Get a school as prime bundle with your first Digicel SIM card. Visit the Digicel store today. DIGICEL.
You're invited to listen to Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. We'll give you tips on how to make your money count, how to save, and how to grow your worth. It's all inside Dollars and Cents, brought to you by BPM Financial Limited, taking you higher. That's Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. on the family station, Love 101.
There is an easy way for insurance coverage today with no line in your way. All you have to say is
Genac.com. Everything you have is everything you have. So keep your assets covered and save 10% off your insurance when you renew by visiting Genac.com. You don't need to go into a branch. You can do just about everything online at GENAC.com. Remember, smart insurance saves. Who knows what tomorrow brings? So future-proof everything.
insurance on the go. Trust the brand that you know.
GENAC.com.
All you have to say is Genac.com.
General Accident Insurance Company. Future-proofing tomorrow.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint, and in this, the first watch, we are discussing the whole matter of global warming and climate change. We have online the Honorable Pernell Charles Jr., Minister of Housing and Urban Renewal, Environment and Climate Change, as well as Professor Michael Taylor, Dean of the Faculty of Science and Technology at UWI. Professor Taylor, still with us? Professor Taylor, still with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you. All right. As was mentioned by Minister Charles, you were part of the launch last week, and you reportedly stated that there are at least 50 Caribbean matters that have to be on the table if we are to achieve net zero emissions by 2015. Now, what are those 5 matters and how achievable are those goals?
All right, so let me start a little bit by stepping back to talk about what we mean by net zero. Just,
okay.
We're all on the same page.
Okay.
So you would have heard both me and Minister Charles mention that, as a globe, we're constantly increasing the amount of greenhouse gas emissions we're putting out, this carbon dioxide. And if we continue on the same path that we are on in terms of global emissions, including emissions within the Caribbean and in Jamaica, then we have only seen 1 degree of temperature rise. Well, and I say only, since the pre-industrial times. But look on what that 1 degree is doing to us. It's that loss of shoreline in Hellshire Beach. It's those unbearable nights that are warm. It's those Category 5 hurricanes that we are already seeing. If we continue increasing the greenhouse gases, then we are really on the path to 3 and even up to 4 degrees warming by the end of the century. Now, remember what 1 has done for us already. Can you imagine what 3 or 4 will do? So the whole Paris Agreement that Minister Charles alluded to says, okay, let's try to reduce that 3 and 4 degrees at the end of the century to maybe 2. And the Caribbean, including Jamaica, led by people like Minister Charles, have put, no, not even 2. Let's only increase it to 1.5 degrees by the end of the century. In other words, only half more degree of warming. But the only way to do that is if we are going to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions globally. Now, scientists the world over have worked out that if we're going to achieve 1.5 degrees that the Caribbean has put on the table, not 2, not 3, not 4 degrees where we are headed to, we're going to have to reduce greenhouse gases by at least 50% and reach what we call net zero by the middle of this century. Middle of the century is not far away. And net zero means the amount that we are putting up is equal to the amount that we are taking out of the atmosphere. And I remember I spoke about trees being an excellent way of taking things out of the atmosphere. So we, as a world, we have to hold to what we call a net zero goal by 2050. Reduce the emissions of greenhouse gases. So what you put out is matched by what you come in, take out. If we are going to achieve net zero, and net zero is absolutely critical if we are going to get even 1.5 degrees that the Caribbean has put on the table, then there are some things that have to be on the table. And there's a big meeting of the world later, next month, which I think our minister as well, either will be leading a delegation or will be part, will contribute to. And there are some things that have to be on the table when we meet. I suggested 5 things. One, the entire world has to get around what we call collective ambition. We all have to agree that reaching net zero is the goal. And not only collective ambition, but now the rules of play, who needs to do what? We don't all put out the same amount of greenhouse gases. So collective ambition and rules of play is 1. 2, we all have to figure out how we're going to pull those greenhouse gases out, how we're going to reduce those greenhouse gases. That's mitigation. And that's what Minister Charles is putting on the table with the NDC, the National Determined Contribution. It's how Jamaica is going to contribute to mitigation or reducing the greenhouse gases. 3, we have to make sure that the 1.5 is on the table, that we're not going for a 2-degree goal, which is some parts of the world say, 1.5 is too difficult. 1.5 is what the Caribbean put on the table for us to live a reasonable future. So we have to make sure 1.5 is on the table. 4, even when we reach 1.5, we already know what climate change is doing to us. And 1.5 is not going to be a safe climate, but it's kind of what we have put as a compromise. And so we know we have to adapt to the climate. So how will agriculture survive in a 1.5 world? We have to figure that out. How will water be available in a 1.5 climate? We have to figure that out, and we have to adapt. So adaptation is number 4. And then the last thing is how we're going to pay for all of this. And so access to global finance has to also be on the table, so that developing countries like the Caribbean, who did not cause the problem, but are willing to contribute to the solution through things like the NDC, can get funds to do this kind of adaptation and mitigation. And so the fifth thing that has to be on the table has to be access to finance.
Interesting. Minister Charles, we mentioned about the targets being set. Could you drill down into those targets and the policies that have been put in place by your ministry to hit those targets?
So you would have heard our professor say that Jamaica, we are among the lowest emitters, meaning we are not emitting large portions of the greenhouse gas that is damaging, or threatening rather our existence, but we are emitting some. And so we recognize that even though we're low emitters, we have our own responsibility to go to net zero. Also, we recognize that because of our geographical size and location, we are very vulnerable. We are among the most vulnerable countries. And so Jamaica has set targets in terms of putting in place policies and plans to ramp up the efficiency of our energy sector and to really target reductions in how we use our land use change and forestry. So you would be aware of our national tree planting initiative, which is not just about beautifying the country. It is also about putting in place a program to protect our trees by planting trees, because trees are one of the best ways to combat climate change by reducing greenhouse gas emissions. They take in carbon dioxide and they give us what we need to survive. We have e-mobility projects that we are advancing now, which would be again a very significant part of effort to reduce our dependency on fossil fuels, and to really move now, transition the country to more sustainable practices. We have other programs like the launching of our green bond, which you would have heard of earlier, spearheaded by my ministry, which is supposed to now excite investors, and push investors towards more sustainable and environmentally conscious projects, where we will be working with the Jamaica Stock Exchange, which has done a marvelous job, and pushing now clean transportation, pollution prevention, sustainable agriculture, fisheries, forestry. All of those areas will be pushed in terms of investment. And one last thing I'll tell you as an example is just yesterday, I addressed a virtual leaders meeting of the Coalition on Climate Risk Investment, that's the CCRI. And there I was able to announce that Jamaica will be the first country worldwide to launch its first prototype of the systemic risk assessment tool, the STRAT. The STRAT is going to be a valuable instrument for a country like Jamaica and other countries. It will be a big piece of our efforts now to be able to make better decisions, because it's going to inform national investment decisions, and it is going to help us now to be able to plan ahead by analyzing the threats to certain types of infrastructure development and investments that we've been making over the years. So I say all of that because those are the details, or some of the details, just a few, of what Professor has been talking about in that 5-point plan of net zero mitigation, 1.5 and below adaptation and financing. The simple way to put it, listeners understand, is this: we don't have options. We are already far down the road. I want you to see it as a situation like, if you're driving fast and you're driving towards a wall, because everything is limited in this world. What are you going to do? Keep at the same pace? Or are you going to slow down and try and keep yourself safe away from the wall? Or even if you're going to hit the wall, you hit it at a pace where you can stay alive. We are already far down that road, down the wicket. What we have to do now is understand that we're not talking about wants. We are talking about needs. We need to transform our systems and move towards clean development mechanisms. We need to make sure that all of our children, all of our churches, all of our communities are talking about climate action. We need to make sure that our voice continues to be strong and also continues to be mirrored by our actions. That is what Jamaica is trying to do. That's what our Prime Minister wants. He's a leader in climate finance. I have the opportunity and the blessing to serve as co-chair of the NDC partnership. And with those platforms, we will be pushing those 5 things that Professor has spoken about, and we'll be pushing them aggressively so that COP26, which is a big meeting that you hear about with world leaders, will not be a talk shop. We want it to be a meeting where decisions are made and, more importantly, action is taken.
All right, well said. A fitting note on which to end. I want to thank you both for joining Professor Michael Taylor and Minister Pernell Charles Jr. Have a blessed day, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. All the best. Great.
Listeners, the Morning Watch will return in just a moment.
Excuse me, sir. How much patty you a buy?
Me no know.
Me think you should buy 5.
Why? Why me fi buy 5?
Cause Juicy Patty have a cheesy surprise.
When you buy any 5 juicy patties, you can cheese it up for free.
Yeah, all 5 patty full of cheese. And it's anchor cheese, you know. And did I tell you, it's only for the month of October. So you better run go down there fast. Right now, cheese! Cheese it up. Upgrade 5 patties of cheese for free today.
With Juicy Patties. Conditions applies.
Hey, what if you were in a car accident? How much and how long would it take to get you back on the road? At ICWI, your recovery is our priority. Comprehensive, complete, or newest policy offering bundles benefits like uninsured motorist protection, excess eliminator, alternative transportation, and more. Avoid unnecessary frustrations when it's time to claim. Ask about Comprehensive Complete from ICWI today. Click, call, or visit us for a free quote.
Are you an exporter, a micro, small, or medium-sized enterprise engaged in primary production or manufacturing? Do you want to learn more about the incentives available to the productive sectors? Then join the Jamaica Customs Agency and other entities for an online public forum on incentives and productive inputs relief on Thursday, October 14, 2021 from 10 a.m. to 12 noon under the theme Incentives and Productive Inputs Relief. Who stands to benefit? Log on at www.jacustoms.gov.jm to register and take your business to the next level. That's the Jamaica Customs Agency's CCC online series. Click, connect, and converse with Customs, October 14 from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. This is a forum you should not miss. Jamaica Customs, keeping our customers in focus.
Bashko time! It's the summertime! Bashko! Kids are off from school and getting some well-earned time off. No, don't play with that! But there's no time to relax. Before you know it, school reopens. I can't wait. But don't worry, Bashko has your back for back to school with school bags, lunch boxes, pencils, pens, erasers, books, rulers, khaki, and more. So beat the rush and get ready for back to school. Bashko, 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 Bashko. The store that gives you more.
I am Bishop Dr. Alvin Bailey of the Jamaica Evangelical Alliance. I'm the presiding bishop of the Holiness Christian Churches in Jamaica. I have been vaccinated. Members of my ministerial team are vaccinated, and my denomination believes that people must be vaccinated. It is not for favor, friendship, or for any gains that we promote vaccination, but that you might have a healthy life, that you might be safe and safe in these difficult times. Get vaccinated today. Vaccine works. Remember, vaccines save lives.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Now, let's take a look at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. In the Observer, PIOJ still bullish on Jamaica's economic recovery. And also more reported of missing teacher. We continue to pray in regards to that situation. In the Gleaner, J. Ray and the nephew donates to 12 healthcare facilities. And also 3 men killed in that daring attack yesterday in Montego Bay. Those are some of the major stories and headlines in our newspaper. As well, we'll read some of the feedback from our Facebook and WhatsApp question. What are your thoughts on the vaccination program so far? Please share your responses on our Facebook page, Love 101 FM, and also whether by text or voice note to WhatsApp 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back.
Raising a family and keeping the love alive in a marriage with a spouse
who is constantly sick or in severe pain can be extremely challenging. When it's nice, you gotta do it twice. Tune in this Thursday, October 7 at 5:30 p.m. with host Clean Beckles and co-host Dr. Dylan Puissant for a rebroadcast of Dealing with Disability in Marriage. That's a rebroadcast of To Have and To Hold. This Thursday, October 7 at 5:30 p.m. with host Clean Beckles and co-host Dr. Dylan Puissant on your family station Love 101.
You're invited to listen to Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. We'll give you tips on how to make your money count, how to save, and how to grow your worth. It's all inside Dollars and Cents, brought to you by BPM Financial Limited, taking you higher. That's Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. on the family station Love 101.
Here's a vaccination message from the family station. When are you considered fully vaccinated? If you have taken the AstraZeneca vaccine or the Pfizer vaccine, you're considered fully vaccinated 2 weeks after your second dose. If you have taken the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, you're considered fully vaccinated 2 weeks after your single dose. My name is Tamika Dawkins from Love 101, encouraging you to get vaccinated. Let's get vaccinated and get back to life.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. We are now about to segue into the second watch. Now, more than 280,000 people in Jamaica, or approximately 10% population, have been reportedly fully vaccinated. And to date, approximately 73,900 children have been reportedly vaccinated. But last week, the Ministry of Health had to dump approximately 55,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine. How has the vaccination program been going so far? Well, to discuss this issue, we have joining us Mr. Kevin O'Brien Chang, social commentator, and Dr. Maurice Guy, opposition spokesperson on health. Good morning to you both.
Hi, morning, everybody.
Good morning, Kevin.
Hi, doctor.
All right, good to have you. Gentlemen, what are your opening remarks on the present state of Jamaica's COVID-19 vaccination program? Beginning with you, Mr. O'Brien Chan.
Mediocre. It could do a lot better. And the dumping of the vaccines clearly is bad management somewhere along the line. And the grave error was the only vaccine approved for children is the Pfizer, right? So clearly logic says those should have been reserved for children. You common sense, you reserve the only vaccine that's approved for children. Instead, they started giving it out widely to adults. And now the children, the effects have been terrible because the children, not enough vaccines to go back to school. One of the worst effects of this crisis, the COVID crisis, has been the schooling. It's exacerbated the two Jamaicas. The ones up there are managing, they have computers and good connections. The ones down there, when I say down there, I mean income-wise, right? And sociologically. They're basically losing 2 years of schooling. And this Pfizer could have helped ameliorate the problem. Instead, they bungled it badly by not keeping it for the children, using it for adults. And so they don't have enough now. And they've lost a term of school. So mediocre, I would say. I give it a 5 or 6 at best, out of 10.
Dr. Guy?
I won't be as generous as Mr. O'Brien Chang. I think they have blundered significantly. And the truth is that I think it's almost tantamount to a disgrace in terms of the management. The reality, and I agree with Mr. O'Brien Chang, that Pfizer was and was originally as part of the policy reserved for children only, and there was hope that they would have been able to vaccinate sufficiently to have face-to-face classes resuming. We got as a gift about 220,000 doses, and I would have thought that the ministry would have decided that they were going to split that right down the middle and give it to half for the children in the first dose and reserve the other half for 3 to the 6 week later period. However, what they have done, as was just expressed, is to give it to everyone. Now, the ministry, in their defense yesterday, said that they took a clinical decision to give the vaccine as first dose because it gives some amount of protection. I would think, though, that their decision to do that should have been confined to the age group 12 to 18 years old that they was originally proposed for. So even if you're given some amount of coverage, you should give it to that cohort of persons who the vaccine is, one, approved for use within, and secondly, that you would aim to get some amount of school reopening with face-to-face. And that is why it is, my opening is that it's a blunder. The ministry, I don't think thought out this process well, and we are now seeing exactly the lack of this thought out.
Having said that, gentlemen, who should shoulder most, I say, of the blame for the fact that approximately 55,000 doses of the vaccine had to be done? Is it the Ministry of Health, the government of Jamaica, or generally the people of Jamaica? Mr. O'Brien Chang, first.
And I would think all of the above, right? But the point is, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Health, they're in charge. And if you follow, if you go on the ministry's IG page, you'll see it yourself. In August, they talked about National Student Vaccine Program. You'll see the posters or the advertisements, right? In August. National Student Vaccination Program for children and all that. That vanished in September. If you look at the advertisements in September, they have a lot of them for Pfizer. No mention of children. That permanent secretary was talking garbage yesterday, that they only had the Pfizer at schools. Rubbish. They had one in Trelawney. I saw it. Please, that was all the health centers. Pfizer only. Many of them. That permanent secretary, I'd be generous. He's not telling the truth. All right. And I think the government at the beginning put a proposal. I heard a press conference that it's going to be children and the parents and the guardians only. That policy vanished somewhere along the line. And as I say, it is bad leadership. Bad leadership. Personally, what I would do now, you notice that since Mr. Juliet Holness talked, what everybody's been saying in private, they have reserved the Pfizer for the children. And the response, everybody I hear saying, boy, finally somebody taught the truth, right? And personally, in this disaster,
that I mentioned that as well earlier on.
Well, Mr. Dr. Guy, you should, I didn't hear it, but you should have been more, maybe I don't want to be near the vocalness, but as I say, that should have been said from the start. From early in September, when we started going off track, the many people in charge of the Ministry of Health should have corrected this. Hold on, something's gone wrong here. Why is it not being reserved for the children? We should have had a cacophony of voices at that time saying, no, we're going off track. It is now September, 1 whole month of giving the Pfizer to adults. And I talk to people who have gone to places like, for example, New Forest. I know somebody from down there. They said one day they had it all adults, like 1,000 doses give out, no mention of children. So we had 1 whole month of bad policy, right? And where were the voices at the Ministry of Health or somebody in charge saying, no, something gone wrong? Silence is consent.
Again, we repeat, the views expressed are not necessarily those of Love FM. But you're up on a break, gentlemen. We're going to take a break and be right back.
Well, the smart way means you have a clear mission for your money. Specific and measurable means defining the reason for your financial goals. Achievable and realistic means keeping those goals meaningful, yet attainable. Think more retirement, less world's richest. Timely means keeping a time frame in mind so that all efforts remain focused.
Visit parita.com/opportunities for more growth coach insights.
There is an easy way for insurance coverage today with no line in your way. All you have to say is
Genac.com. Everything you have is everything you have. So keep your assets covered and save 10% off your insurance when you renew by visiting Genac.com. You don't need to go into a branch. You can do just about everything online at GENAC.com. Remember, smart insurance saves. Who knows what tomorrow brings? So future-proof everything.
insurance on the go. Trust the brand that you know.
GENAC.com.
All you have to say is Genac.com.
General Accident Insurance Company. Future-proofing tomorrow.
211 is a hotline dedicated to reporting child abuse. It is easy to remember and accessible 24 hours a day across all networks. Report all forms of child abuse: sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional, neglect, and trafficking. Our children are depending on us to protect them. If you see something, make the call. Report child abuse. Call 211.
This is Love 101. The family station is 14 minutes to 8 o'clock.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. We are now in the second half of the second watch, and we are discussing the whole matter of the COVID-19 vaccination program. Where is it going? And we have online Dr. Maurice Guy, opposition spokesman on health, and Mr. Kevin O'Brien Chang, social commentator. Dr. Guy, I'd asked Mr. O'Brien Chang who should shoulder most of the blame. And I hope you're not going to say that all of the above. But is it the Ministry of Health, the government of Jamaica, or the people of Jamaica?
Well, I think it's the political head of the ministry, which is the minister. And I say that because, you know, we have in the past and are still calling for somebody to have overarching responsibility for this vaccination program. People have termed him the czar, whatever you want to call him or her. Yeah. The reality is that the minister has taken on to himself as the political head of the ministry. There is that responsibility. And quite frankly, I don't think that should have been the case. The technocrats at the ministry also need to share some amount of that blame, because we would appreciate that the minister should be guided by the science, and probably he got wrong advice in terms of making that particular decision, or probably these people are on a frolic of their own, because we are now seeing that a decision was taken where a policy decision was taken, and yesterday the permanent secretary was at pains to try and say that we actually follow the policy, when, as Mr. O'Brien Chang indicated, we were told that Pfizer was coming for children. Now, unless there was a change in the policy further down the road, which the country was not aware of, it points to the fact that two sides of the mouth were talking out of the ministry. And that is even compounded further, Rev, by when the minister announced that all Pfizer had been finished. You know, we are going to be suspending, there'll be no second doses until we get a new shipment out of the States, and we don't know when that is going to come. But yet, we saw Pfizer being administered Monday and Tuesday, albeit small amounts, but administered nonetheless, and not necessarily to children, to persons who came for second doses. And whatever reason the ministry is going to want to give for that, we still maintain that there were children out there who, in that particular group, who were due second doses, and they were pushed aside, and adults who had first dose of Pfizer were in the line ahead of them.
Still with you, Dr. Guy, there is the view that had the Pfizer vaccines not been administered the way they were, fewer persons would have at least received one dose at this time. What's your response to that view?
That is a possibility, but part of the challenge that what would have led to that is the messaging that was out there. If people appreciated the fact that vaccination was important, and people appreciate the fact that the Pfizer is available but only available for children, then the message would have to be coined in the way for them to appreciate that the only vaccines that are available to them is the Johnson & Johnson or the AstraZeneca. And I think the messaging and the communication was not there to indicate that, and hence we are where we are now.
Mr. Brian Chang, your take on that?
Totally correct. I think Dr. Guy is totally right. The messaging was very poor. But I think if you had told people straight up from the start, tell them we want the children to go back to school, Pfizer for the children, people would understand. But he talked about we need a vaccination czar, Dr. Guy, and he's totally correct. I agree. We need somebody in charge, and the very obvious person. When you see the response yesterday to Mr. Juliet Holness, people are saying, "Whoa, finally somebody talking the truth," because Mr. Holness doesn't mince words; she talks it as it is. And
well,
if I was
she should be desired. She should be desired. Yes. That's what you're saying.
Yes. Because right now, listen, we have 250,000 of AstraZeneca. They're going to be dumped at the end of October, right? If we don't not used. And remember, this dumping of the vaccine is a disaster for Jamaica. When we go back to ask the vaccines, who are going to give us? Like, what are we going to give them? You're wasting them. We need a game-changing bombshell right now. We need a game-changing bombshell. And Juliet, if you see the response to Juliet Holness on Facebook and all that, people overwhelmingly supporting what she's saying. So obviously, if you want somebody who can talk to the people in their language, and remember her background, this is a lady, well, obviously a black woman, but some woman go in some early age, St. Catherine High, she's on the the same. Remember the bowels of the people. She understands the people. They understand her, trust her, and nobody can say she fights for poor people. So she's a very obvious person to me. If you need a technical expert as our deputy, get Danville Walker or somebody, one of these logistics experts. But you need somebody who can communicate to the people in a way they can relate to. And the response that you have seen to her is overwhelmingly positive. I'd put her in charge of it, because you need a game-changing bombshell. And she is an obvious person to me who the people in Jamaica can relate to, all the people in Jamaica can relate to. And I would do that, because you have to do if you do business as usual, at the end of the month, they could be dumping more AstraZeneca. And the next time Jamaica wants vaccine, what? You're wasting our vaccines and you're begging us more? Goodbye. We don't even talk to you. And also, we're going to have to start mixing vaccines. We're not getting any more Pfizer because America giving the third shot. But France has mixed them. Germany has mixed them. Canada has mixed them. Nobody dying in droves over there. The ones who get the Pfizer going to have to get this AstraZeneca.
Hold on there, Mr. Brancha. You said that we're not getting any more Pfizer? Did I hear you clearly?
Very unlikely. America now giving third shots. Remember, America giving booster shot. There's going to be a shortage of Pfizer. It's going to be very... And what?
That's what the Jamaicans want. That's what the Jamaicans want, is the clocks.
Yes, because of poor education. If you look at the facts, all of the vaccines are effective. But because Jamaicans follow American news and see Pfizer in America, as Dr. Guy said, poor messaging. But I'm telling you, if America's giving third booster shots, where Jamaica can get Pfizer from? The government is not educating the people that France did it, Germany did it, Canada did it. They're not dying off in droves over there. It's a reality in front of our noses. We have to deal with reality. We can't deal with fantasy, what we would like. It is the reality of the world we have to deal with. And somebody has to tell Jamaicans these things.
Yeah.
And Mr. Juliet Holness is the best person. After what yesterday said, the response to her on Facebook, overwhelmingly positive. That's my take.
Dr.
Yes,
Morris, you are saying the same thing?
No, I disagree with Mr. O'Brien Chang. And I tell you why. Where Juliet Holness is not in politics and not connected in the way she does, probably would have been a good person. But I think we should take the politicians seriously out of the mainstream in terms of who is at the head. And we can find somebody in this country who may have that reach, have that type of experience, and have the sense.
Give us a name, Dr. Guy. Give us a name.
No. You mentioned Danville Walker as one person.
He's a good communicator.
Yes,
we need a communicator.
Right? You have Professor Shirley, who is heading this
team. Not a good communicator. These guys are uptown guys. They can't communicate.
Yes, but you then you give somebody, apprentice to them with somebody who can do the communication.
That's the point. That's my point. Put Juliet Holness in charge, communication, and put these guys underneath.
No, man, take the politics out of it, and I still maintain that.
Everybody gets somebody else, and nobody can come with a name. That's what they're going to hear. Oh, the simulated. Right now, yes, she's the prime minister's wife. Who can't worry about them things? Who can communicate to the people? And I'm going to hear all this in a suitable.
Well, you're saying that now, Kevin.
You disagree on that one.
Eh? Give us a name.
But the way forward, apart from Mrs. Holness, the way forward, Dr. Maurice guy, because there's much talk now about mandatory vaccination. What's your take on that?
Well, first of all, I think we need to recalibrate what is happening. The Ministry of Health needs to start rebuilding some amount of confidence and trust and transparency with the people of Jamaica. We need to tweak the process. We don't know what this Gordon Shirley committee is coming out with. It may be the saving grace in terms of what is going to happen next in the country. But I think one of the things that needs to be done first is that we iron all these kinks, ensure that the vaccination program is in the communities, not necessarily in the main towns of the parishes and in Kingston. We need to ensure that we have the message going out to the people in the community, have a different type of message getting to them. Not just a macro message that is on it, but the message that goes into the community where you have the influencers, the justices of the peace, the principals, the pastors within the small communities. You know, one cocoa, full basket. So if you do have small sensitization programs in those areas, and then you have the team getting in there, then your take-up eventually will add up. But when you just have a vaccination program that is going to have a fixed center in the parish and people have to travel 14, 15 miles to go to that center, then it's going to create problems. Kevin, the notion of 259,000 doses potentially being thrown out at the end of this month has not taken into account the fact that we should be administering about 159,000 AstraZeneca second doses towards the end of this month. So if we don't get the other 100,000 persons getting their first dose, then we're going to have to dump that. And as you said, it is quite unfortunate because we were the beneficiaries of people's generosity. And as you quite correctly said, if we need to go back to them next time and say, boy, I beg you some more, then say to hell with you, because you waste what you have gotten already.
Mr. Brian Chang, you have the final word.
Well, government, it can't be business as usual. Yeah, you hear me? It can't be business as usual.
Yes,
we need a drastic change.
Yeah, we hear you.
And I said, we need a drastic change in the way things being done right now. Something the public would pay attention to. This the Jamaican people have to take the blame to, you know. Juliet Cuthbert. I saw a report yesterday. Right? Juliet Cuthbert, she said she spent $40,000. She said she spent yesterday $40,000 on town criers for vaccine. 40 people show up. Right? So, listen, the mandatory vaccination process, I will say this, Dr. Andrew Holness must watch what Keith Rowell in Trinidad is doing. Stop this wimpish, nice guy thing. Crack down. We need tough love right now. Mr. Rowell in Trinidad done ramping. And Andrew Holness needs to take a page from his book and crack down and do what needs to be done as a leader in this war against COVID.
Don Anderson poll says 70% of Jamaicans are totally against mandatory vaccination, Mr. Chan.
That was then.
And you believe that has changed?
It can change.
That's changed significantly.
It is changing. It is changing. And I tell you why. It is going to change. And I tell you why. There are many people seeing many of their loved ones and friends dying who have not been vaccinated. And I think, I'm not talking about driving fear, but I think one of the things that the ministry can do at this point in time is that when they report the numbers of those who are in hospital and those who have died, give the country an idea as to how many have been vaccinated versus those who have not been vaccinated. And I will tell you that that will improve the numbers. I'm not saying fear is what is going to do it.
But the most important thing right now, put somebody in charge that people listen to.
Right.
Somebody that people listen to. And I said, Juliet Holness is the right person. That is my take.
Thank you both for joining us. Thanks for a spirited discussion.
I disagree with you, Kevin, but thanks for having me.
Thank you, listeners, for being with us. For information how to get copies of this program, call our production department at 876-968-9596-7. Please understand, everybody, that this has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Gail, and our guests. Please join Mr. Stokely Marshall next week as he continues to look at the issues of the day. I'm Dylan Toussaint, reminding you to be purposeful, faithful, thankful, and watchful as I hand you back to Love in the Morning with Shavonne Blair.
Clock on the sound of love. It's time for the program Forward in Faith.